This is the world according to Carmencita. That vulnerability is like a key to everything. The pressures that we all feel, right, to show up a certain way in the world. I really understood the importance of our small businesses to our communities, to changing the wealth trajectory, to creating more access to education, to creating more access to better health care. People love when they feel seen, right? And when they feel valued and when their story is validated. There's a very special place in hell for women who don't support each other.
Ooh, spicy.
It has been harder for us because we do have to navigate all of the time, the places and moments where we've been underestimated, where we've been marginalized, you know, and somehow we still find ourselves here. Is the end game to be your whole self, or is the end game to win? Okay. I think the ability to be your full self and the ability and the importance of including people of all different backgrounds and walks of life and experience sets, that's two totally different things.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Banking on Cultura, where we talk about the complexity and the vibrancy of Latino culture, entrepreneurship, and of course, all the bonchinche in between. Now, today I have an esteemed guest who, y'all, I don't even know where to start with this one because this is like someone I admired as a kid, like in my 20s. I would see her out and about and I would just be like in awe and be like, oh my God, I want to be just like her. And it's so crazy how your, icons, people that you truly admire and look up to, you get to work with them and collaborate with them in the future, y'all. So I'm just super pumped about today's episode and for you guys all to meet the one, the only Carmen Ortiz-McGhee. Welcome to Banking on Cultura.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction. And I'm humbled for all the words that you used to describe me. It's been such a joy getting to know you better and having this opportunity to sit here and talk.
Yes.
And talk about el bochinche y todo lo que va a pasar.
Todo.
I love it.
You know, I want to start with, first of all, how you and I got acquainted, because you did not know me. Although I know you. I knew who you were, and I was like, oh my God, I would see you at these events. So you guys, I grew up on Wall Street, so that's where I started my career. Carmen is like a Wall Street legend, taking over the space. Her name rings bells. And I would see her at networking events all the time. And I would remember, I would be in the corner, I'd be like, yo, she's working that room. Like, she is killing it. And I didn't see many women who look like me in these rooms. Didn't have the curly hair, the curves, like just literally looked like she was from the cultura. And I know when I saw her at events, I would immediately feel like, okay, I belong here. Like, I'm Gucci. Carmen's here. So I'm good. And I remember back then in my 20s when I would see her and I would talk to my mentor, Pilar Avilar. And I would be like, yo, Pilar, I got to figure out how to work with Carmen. I got to figure out like how to make this happen. And for years we would like see each other and I would like talk to Carmen for like 2 seconds. But you know, she's badass. She got a lot of people coming at her. She was not worried about me at that time. But it's okay. That's how you plant the seeds, honey. That is how you plant the seeds.
And I always remembered you.
Oh, thank you. And fast forward, we got reacquainted in Napa.
Yes.
Shout out to the Hive.
Yes.
And the first year that I saw you there, we kind of chit-chatted over salsa, I remember. And we exchanged some emails afterwards. I was like, Carmen, I got to get this corporate money. Like, hook it up. Let's see. That was years ago. And we were in communication, didn't happen. And then this past year in Napa, we met again.
We did.
And we were both in, I would say, different periods in our lives. I now an entrepreneur, no longer, an employee, been in the game now 6 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we got reacquainted because we're at dinner.
Yes.
And Carmen has been married how long now?
26 years.
Carmen has been married 26 years, y'all. Okay? Congrats to Carmen on that, because that is no easy feat, okay? And she was at the table, and did I ask you the question when I was like, hey, can you give us some advice?
You did, because my anniversary was coming up.
That's right.
And you said, oh my God, that's amazing. What advice would you give to those of us who are trying to build these relationships, hope to have that kind of longevity? And so I shared a few tidbits with you.
Yes. And it was, it was one of those moments where we got to know each other personally.
Yes.
And we never had that opportunity. It was the first time
I think that we'd really talked about personal things, right? Most of the other conversations had been more business oriented, career focused, but it was the first time we'd had a personal conversation.
Totally. And it was such a breath of fresh air. And I think that allowed for us to see each other in a completely different light.
Yes.
Grow respect for one another.
Yes.
And now we're here.
Yes. I know.
And now we are here. Yes, I'm baking on cultura. But I wanted to share that with the audience because it was a really great lesson for me in understanding relationships and how significant it is for you to try your best to humanize those interactions because when you're able to connect with someone on a genuine level, it just allows for a different way for your relationship to foster versus the traditional way where it's like super stuffy, formal, business. I mean, there's obviously a time and a place for that as well. Yeah. But I truly believe that when you're able to connect on a personal level, it just puts you in a different category altogether.
Well, it allows the possibilities, right, to flourish. And I'll say from my end, much of my career, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, I was always very managed. Right. I was very, very closed in terms of who I would open myself to. And I would show the more fun, the more levity, the more real, side of myself. And for whatever reason, in that moment in Napa, I was open. Right. And I wanted to get to know more about you. We had been seeing each other for so many years now. And I opened myself with intention to allow for these possibilities to unfurl. And I'm so glad I did.
Me too. Me too. We had a moment, Zari.
We did.
We had many moments in Napa. It was beautiful.
It was.
So we like to kick off the show with a segment called What's the Bonchinche? So give us the scoop. What's the tea? What's the latest and greatest?
So when we talked about this, we talked about me sharing those tidbits, right? And I'm going to say this, I'm going to preface it. Okay. This is the world according to Carmencita, okay? These are my perspectives and what has helped me in my relationship. But yes, 26 years in, my husband and I met in college and, I fell in love immediately. But I would tell you that the three things that have helped us navigate all of the twists and turns, the ups and downs, the light periods and dark periods of marriage, because it has all of those things in it, have been first, real, genuine communication. And when I say that, I mean that both people, no matter how hard the message is on the other side, are open to really hearing what the other is telling them. Right? That your partner may be sharing something that they're not happy with, something that's difficult for them about how you show up in the relationship.
Right.
Right. And none of us like that. Right. I mean, that's a little painful. And you're like, pero, right? That's
me?
A little too
I'm not
real.
Perfect? What are you talking about?
I don't understand. But the ability to really hear my husband and to know that he was really hearing me has allowed us to really navigate some of the toughest things that life has thrown at us.
So the bochincha is you just celebrated an anniversary,
right? We did. June 18th. Okay. Yes.
So you know me, I like to get...
Uh-oh.
You know me, I like to get, beyond the surface because everybody says communication, right? Everybody says that.
Sure.
But so... just as important as communication is also keeping the fire alive.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah,
and making sure things are spicy and making sure things are fun, etc. Yes. So what's your advice for that?
So the second thing that we talked about, if you recall, was intimacy, right?
Yes.
And so normally people think about intimacy as the heat and so I'm going to give you the high level, quick answers, right? The quick answers are you take care of yourself. Right? You keep yourself and you're healthy. Your energy is right and positive and engaged. You're open and adventurous together in the ways that those things, make sense for the relationship. But I'm going to tell you even more important than all of that because, life is real, right? And every relationship starts out hot and exciting and, wonderful. But life gets real, life gets heavy, right? Especially when you bring kids into it and you start buying homes and responsibilities. My husband's an entrepreneur, right? He's got the weight of building a company on his shoulders. I would tell you the thing that has kept it so solid and so allowed us to continue the spice is the intimacy. And when I say that, I mean we are able to be super vulnerable with each other, like in a raw and scary way, right? And it's a risk, and you don't like taking it, but that vulnerability is like a key to everything, because you have a true safe space,
right?
So you get to be who you are in all of the ways and in all of the places and in all of the times, fully and 100% knowing that you're not being judged, that you're being loved, right? And that there's no risk of loss, right? Because you might do something a little left of center, or you might say something a little left of center, or you might feel something that isn't, politically correct to feel,
right?
Or relationshiply correct to feel,
right?
Right? And so that closeness and that safety it's everything.
I love that you say that, because when people think intimacy, they immediately think physical.
Right.
And so I love that you are sharing that. So I got some bonchiche.
Oh, tell me.
So the bonchiche is, darling, that your girl has lost 16 pounds. Yes, your girl has lost 16 pounds since I came back from Costa Rica, because your girl turned 40 this year, and I was like, okay, we gotta get it all the way together, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and so this journey has been really interesting because my palate has like changed. Now I'm not like yearning for like super fatty foods. I'm like very more conscious of what I'm putting in my mouth. I'm moving lighter.
Yes.
I'm making cultura. That's like extra motivation. Like, girl, you on camera, camera at extra 10 pounds. Like, get it together.
No one wants that.
I got all types of motivations going on right now.
Right.
But really excited about that and really proud of myself, y'all.
Yes, you should be. That's
and it's
amazing.
been simple. People will be like, well, how'd you do it? Simple. Not eating bad and exercising. That's it.
Right.
And water.
It's not, and look, the formulas are there. Yeah. It's the same thing we've always known.
Exactly.
We just have a lot of complicated, programs and,
of course, because, marketers, they're coming out here, companies got to make some money off of your insecurities and your quick fix, right?
Yeah, and the pressures.
Exactly.
The pressures that we all feel, right, to show up a certain way in the world.
Totally, which we're going to break down today.
Yes.
So introduce who you are to the folks, because we've learned a little bit personal side and we'll probably circle back on this.
Yeah.
But introduce Carmen, the executive.
Yeah. So Carmen, the executive, is an improbable executive, right?
Not SAT words.
Yeah. She is an improbable executive. So I'm chief operating officer of an organization called the National Association of Investment Companies. And in fact, we're here in New York for one of the events that we're hosting. And so I started out, I majored in psychology. My passion was helping people. I had launched an organization in college to help Latino students, American Latino students, get into institutions of higher learning. That was my thing. It was the advocacy, the helping. I wanted zero to do with business and far less to do with finance, surprisingly, right? Given where I am today. And so, life has its twists and its turns. I started my career at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce because they had a scholarship program that I thought I was going to be super involved with. But as life would have it, my roles, changed and focused more on that advocacy piece and the creating access and opportunities for Latino-owned businesses, right? And that's where I really understood the importance of our small businesses to our communities, to changing the wealth trajectory, to creating more access to education, to creating more access to better healthcare, and all of the things that when our communities have successful businesses owned by people who look like them, those doors open up for them. So that's become my passion. And so I've been doing that for almost the entire balance of my career. But I found myself, and Pilar Avila, also my mentor, as you know, she had left to start a new organization called the New America Alliance, which was a moment in time for me that completely changed my understanding of what was possible. This was a group of Latino, power brokers.
Loaded, okay? Like some of the wealthiest Latinos in the country.
Yeah, and most influential, right? And strategic and brilliant. And their ability for a relatively small group of individuals, I think at the height they had 100 members, right? To move the needle in powerful ways was just... I was blown away because like you, I'd never seen people like me at that level, and so that was where I had my first exposure to finance. There was a particular initiative, we called it the Pension Fund Initiative, and this was where we advocated for Latino asset managers, right? And again, mind blown, eyes opened, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of that space. And so I threw myself into learning. Many of my friends in the industry will tell you back then, I was a sponge and I was asking questions all of the time, and I was really absorbing, sitting in the front row at conferences, trying to understand everything that I could, and what I didn't, I would ask. And I would text in the middle. It didn't matter, what time of day, right? I was always, Googling and researching and asking and really trying to learn my understanding because I was so behind the curve, right? I was not exposed to the world of finance until I was in my early 30s. And
really?
So early 30s.
Oh, wow.
I know. Don't start counting the years. No haga eso. Okay. No haga eso. But anyway, and those relationships, have led to where I am today. My CEO today for NAIC, this is our second time working together. And it has been an amazing experience. We've grown the organization like 400% in the last 5 years across all of the metrics, the number of members. And we have over 40 Latino firms, by the way. And these are firms that are like private equity investors, venture capital investors, hedge fund investors, private credit, which is a newer asset class. These are some of the most accomplished and brilliant people of color and women. I would argue in the world, but certainly in business and in the world of finance. And so I work in a space where we advocate for them. We open doors for them. And it has been such an incredible honor, right, to serve that community in a way that's meaningful and helpful and moves the needle forward.
So we have now established that you put in your sweat equity, you've got the credibility, and you also were a part of an industry that is heavily male-dominated, and not many folks of color are at the higher ranks. And so I want to break down politics, because I think there's a lot to be said about corporate politics in finance specifically, but also a lot of transferable things that can be translated to the entrepreneur 100%. Side. Because regardless of what you do, we always play in politics, one way or another. 100%. So I want to break this down with how you've been able to be taken seriously in an industry that A, looks at women as the help, as the support team,
especially Latino women.
Right? And also super male dominated, with egos, with... So I want to be diplomatic here or not, Carmen?
Let's be diplomatic. Let's go the diplomatic route. With all of the things that they bring.
With all the things that they bring. I want to talk about how you were able to position yourself as an expert in this space, gain respect as a Latina, as a beautiful Latina, as a curvy Latina, as a Latina, when you walk into the room, you get noticed, darling.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
It turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary.
completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis?
Check out www.victoriajen.com/training
To learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go.
So how have you been able to navigate that space?
Yeah. You know, it's been an interesting journey. And the very, very first thing was to be excellent, right? I had to be substantive because whatever doors open for you, right? As a woman, as you very kindly said, you know, an attractive woman, once you get in the door, then what? Right? How do you stay in? How do you become a part of the movement, of the work, of the interesting projects, how do you continue to grow professionally, right? And so excellence was the one thing. And so I worked, you know, harder than everyone else. Like I told you, I would take advantage of all of the resources available to me. I would build relationships, authentic relationships with decision makers and kind of, you know, power brokers and like the folks that I thought could really help me grow and would say my name in rooms when I wasn't there, right? But I had to give them something good to say. So that's why I always go back to excellence and substance is baseline, right?
But what does excellence mean? What does that mean? Like you're the most prepared? Like what does that mean?
It means all of that, right? It means you're the most prepared. It means you do all of the little things that make your work effective, credible. So I'll you know, small things. I would read my emails like multiple times, make sure all of my grammar was correct, make sure my periods, commas, and semicolons were in the right places multiple times. All of the words were the right words. The tone was the right tone before I sent it out, right? I would put myself in positions that were uncomfortable, right? I started public speaking very early and it was terrifying, right? And so I would prepare and I would review. I mean, just even if it was sponsor remarks, like recognizing sponsors, I knew what I was going to say and it was going to be meaningful and substantive about their contribution to the organization and how it had impact. I made sure that everything that I did was thorough and tight and right.
Polished with
100%.
The finest of
100%.
I don't know. What is polish made out of? Oil?
Yes. They're probably different kinds, but we get the point.
Yes. Okay.
You know, so polish was everything.
Okay.
The other thing that I did is that I built authentic relationships with folks, right? People didn't see me coming and roll their eyes thinking, oh my God, here goes. She's going to ask for, you know, she's going to ask for an introduction. She's going to ask for, you know, a promotion. She's going to, no. Like, I was like, hey, how's your family doing? You told me such and such last time that, you know, Jimmy was graduating. How did it go? What was because I was truly, truly interested. People, I'm a psychology major, right? I love people, right? And it was always important to me to build relationships that would last beyond whatever position I was in at the time. And so I made sure I did that, but I did it strategically with the right folks.
So let's break that down a little bit because my memory, I feel like I have selective memory.
You know, it's one of those situations where you never know who's watching, right? And then all these years later, we're here, and now you have all those memories.
Yes. But I'm telling you, I think I have selective memory because I'll remember certain things about people and completely forget everything else. Yeah. So I know you were a psychology major, so you were genuinely interested. But for those of us who have selective memory and who... So I truly believe that part of relationship management is understanding those little intricacies about people, their family stuff, something personal, something that they hold near and dear to their heart. Whenever you get that little nugget, did you have any type of process to remember these things? Because you met so many people on a constant basis.
You know, and so this is the benefit, and I was much better at it then than I am now, right? I'll blame it on the children. I have 3 kids, right? Like, so my memory got worse with each one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Married 28 years, 3 kids.
Espérate, 26.
Oh,
Don't
26. My bad. 26. 26 years, 3 kids, badass executive. Like, I'm sorry. Okay, continue. Sorry. So what were your tips to help remember?
No, so, you know, I mean, honestly, there were, I was blessed with a photographic memory. I can't even act like I had a process. I had, you know, whatever.
You gifted.
I remember, and not only that, but listen, I really wanted, and I was fascinated by them. As I think about the people that I have been blessed to spend time with, that I have been blessed to receive guidance and counsel from, they were fascinating.
Carmen.
No, te lo juro.
You've never come across anyone that was super boring, but you had to build some type of relationship with them because of business purposes?
Okay, maybe once or twice.
Okay. Don't be acting like everybody out here is amazing.
No, they're not.
There are a lot of people.
I had that more in corporate than I did in my world. In my world, most people are genuinely fascinating. But in corporate, you know, it's really interesting. In corporate, and when I met those folks, it was really more about the value, right? And, you know, because everyone has an agenda, right? Everyone has an agenda. So how do you make it so that your agenda and theirs align? Right. And so at that point, you're not ever going to connect with someone that you find painfully boring, right? Or painfully uninteresting, or you can't remember from one meeting to the next, one quarterly meeting to the next. But what is really important is to figure out, if you have to connect with this person, what are the things that matter to both of you, right? How is it that you can add value to whatever it is they're trying to accomplish and motivate them to support you in your efforts? And so, you know, I think about when I had just joined this company. And by the way, I joined, a company that I barely knew what they did when I joined. I joined at an executive vice president level. So I think at the time I was 2 or 3 to the CEO, you know, and I was in a role where I was exposed to many leaders, right? Now, I brought a series of assets that no one else had, right? So my access to this world of diverse financial services, my access to very senior level individuals within corporations, right? And real access, because again, I spent a career building authentic relationships. You know, others didn't have that, right? They had different access points, or they were very superficial connection points. And so I knew how to bring those to bear in strategic ways. So I'll give you an example. There was an opportunity. In fact, the members of New American Alliance were coming to Chicago, which is where the company was based. And they were having, you know, a big event. And I was like, well, let me host it. Let me host it at the top of our corporate building, right? We have this beautiful space. You know, we're going to host this event. And they were all, by the way, potential clients, right? No one else on my team had ever done anything like that before. So the gentleman who was the head of national sales at the time, his mind is blown that someone on this team has access to these sorts of individuals, right? At this level, with the level of influence, you start researching any of the folks who were members of New America Alliance at the time, and it was, you know, again, I mean, wildly impressive. And so now he's looking at me very differently. So this gentleman, and I always talk about, you know, you talk about mentors and sponsors. He was a sponsor for me. But this gentleman, who I'm a 5'1" Boricua, right? This is a 6'9" white guy from the Midwest, right? We couldn't be more different on the surface, you know, if you tried, right? If si no hubiese pintado. And so, but he saw my excellence, the genuineness of my connections and access, and my ability to close the loop, right? And so now when an opportunity came to be promoted into another role, leadership in the business, I was the name that he dropped, right? And so he and I never became friends. He and we've lost contact in the years that have passed since then. But I made an impression on him because of my excellence, because of my genuine connections, and because I knew how to bring something to a close.
Flex. Straight flexing. I love it. Okay. So how have you, because you are able to, you know, drop a little flex here and there and have this access and have this excellence, intellect to match, energy to match, I'm pretty sure you intimidate a lot of folks, women and men. So in your world, how have you been able to navigate that?
You know, it's so funny because I have been told that, right? I've absolutely been told that I'm intimidating, which I think is crazy, right?
Same. I'm like, what?
I think I'm like, but I'm so nice, right?
Yeah,
I'm like, what are you talking about? I love people.
Come give me a hug.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, you know, I think there are moments, you have to choose your moments to flex, right? And the thing is, if you have built your career the right way, everyone knows. You don't have to flex, right? Because of the way you've moved, because of the speaking engagements that you've had, you might be leading a panel here or there at some major conference. You know, when they show up at an event, you're in the VIP, you know, whatever. There's, you know, the body of work that organizations grew under your leadership, you know, that new doors and new horizons were opened under your leadership, right? You leave a trail of evidence. Right. And so you don't have to. And so what I try to do, and it is not always effective, but what I try to do is to just be really human, right? And to show up open and warm, to ask questions, to put the focus on the other person, right? Tell me about you. I would love to know your work. You know, oh, we can talk about me some other time. I want to hear about you. And people love when they feel seen, right? And when they feel valued and when their story is validated, right? And I've always tried to connect with women in particular because there are just additional dynamics there that, you know, they can go one way or another, right? And so I remember one story. In fact, there was a woman on my team at this place that I was describing earlier. And in the very first lunch we had, she felt it necessary because of my trail of evidence to put me in my place. And so she said, well, you know, the CEO of our team doesn't think that I'm going to like you. First meeting, right? She just drops it like that, right?
Like, okay.
Right. He doesn't. So my response to her was, well, I would hope that at this level, you would develop your own opinion on me based on experience and not what someone else may have determined for us. And I said, besides, I come from the school of thought where there's a very special place in hell for women who don't support each other.
Ooh, spicy.
Right? And I mean that. I believe that. I think it is too hard out here for women, right, to advance, to succeed, to get to the next level, to grow and build, for us not to be supportive of each other, right? It's to me, it's inconceivable that we wouldn't do that. But unfortunately it exists. And, you know, over time, again, because I proved myself, because I was, you know, a top performer on the team, because of all of those things, she eventually came around. And now we have a wonderful...
What was her response, though, when you said that?
I mean, she just had to sit back and put her cup down. What are you going to say to that, right? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? I mean, she literally se cayó, and she was just like kind of nodding at me. And I was like, right, because you picked the wrong one.
I love it.
Right? You picked the wrong one.
Right.
And so...
I love when Carmen gets into this mode right here.
You did. You thought one thing, right? But you know, like that kind of chip on your shoulder.
Right.
You know, I think it's one of the gifts that we have as Latinos, right? Because it has been harder for us, because we do have to navigate all of the time, the places and moments where we've been underestimated, where we've been marginalized, you know, and somehow we still find ourselves here. And so in those moments, it is important to leverage those experiences and leverage that spice, right? To let people know, oh, no. We won't be doing that. We will not be doing that today, right? Because that negative engagement will continue if you allow it.
And how have you been able to master that delivery? Because that is
experience,
science and strategy all in its own, how you were able to keep your composure and, kind of you're telling it like it is, but you're doing it in a way where
words
it lands
everything.
so softly and so delicately, where it's like, and you're like, oh shit. But then it's like,
Pero con eso, like,
right? Yes.
Because we're both women, so we should support each other, right?
Yes.
Because I'm down to do that.
Yes.
Right?
So this happened with experience.
Yeah,
this is how you've been able to get better.
And you observe, man, I think the best way for anyone to learn, and I mean, learn from others. Watch the people you admire, right? See how they speak. See the words they choose. See how they react in tense and uncomfortable situations, right? And learn and mimic and grow your own, style of doing that. But that's, 100%. I've been in these places where I've seen so many people handle adversity and handle, others trying to make less of them.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. With grace and effectiveness and strength.
Right.
Right? And so, you don't come into the world, I don't think, having that. And sometimes you can overdo it. Because your chip is like, espérate un momentito. What was that? No. Oh, you're going to know today. Oh, you're going to know today. Right? And where does that get you? Right? That's literally, it's a terrible way, because at that point now you're shutting doors. You're turning people off, you're closing them, and it's not an effective way to get them on your side, or to at least leave the opening for a relationship to evolve, right? And listen, I made all of those mistakes, right? I made all of those mistakes when I was young and more hard-headed than I am today. And, it's truly experience and wisdom and being willing to learn from the mistakes of others or the wonderful examples of others.
So I want to talk about how you've been able to navigate men who invite you to a meeting and you can sense, I think we have, women have this gut feeling about things. We have this special intuition, which I believe is a competitive advantage, right? We know when we are invited to something because of our look, because of our entertainment value, because of our ability to smile and make a gentleman feel good about himself. So how have you been able to navigate those moments where you knew you're at a meeting and you knew homeboy's looking at you like, how can I sleep with this woman?
Oh, my Lord.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis?
Check out www.victoriajen.com/training
to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go.
So first of all, you pick when you go and when you don't go, right? Because you don't say yes to every invitation. You absolutely don't say yes to every invitation. And you weigh that out, right? Is the dance that you're going to have to do if you sit in that situation worth whatever, value you might, or, whatever value you might be able to extract from that situation. Again, I think language and I think comportment, right? How you show up is everything. One of my favorite phrases, when people start becoming overly complimentary, right, is, you're so kind. Just like that.
I get cute. You're
You're so kind, right? Because it shuts down the edge with which they're trying to come at you, right? It shuts it down and nullifies. Like it's almost like you don't even know what they're doing. You completely know what they're doing, but you're not entertaining that, right? You're so kind. That's just awfully nice of you to say, right? And then you either make an exit, right, or you continue. And again, I did this throughout my career, and we always hear in this day and age, don't turn yourself down. You should be able to bring your full self to work. I often chose not to, right? Because it makes it easier not to, right? It makes it, because you have less of that to deal with, right? So for much of my career, and you may remember this, for much of my career, I showed up with my hair in a bun, very little makeup, gray, black, or brown suits, right? Always a jacket, always a suit, right? I would, and I recommend this period, always leave after the business dinner, right? Always leave because after the business dinner is done, right? The dinner, that's it. That's business is done, right? So anything that happens after that is likely not going to advance anything, not your career, not whatever effort you're having the business dinner for, right? That leaves doors open to complications and things to go left of center, right? And for me, the risk of not being taken seriously, of my reputation being damaged, was because I was seen here, or or someone overheard me engaging. I mean, that's absolutely not worth it, right? Not worth it. Whatever fun I'm gonna have. Look, I got friends, right? I got friends. I have an amazing husband. I've got all that. That's where my fun stays, right? That's where I show up in all of my full selfness, right? With my friends, with my husband, in my personal life. And I think if you observe women at the top, right, you will notice there's a tremendous consistency around that, right? They don't show up in all of their full selfness because they understand the game, right? They understand that if they want to get to that top level, they've got to be taken seriously, right? And everybody doesn't need to know, Jenny from the block, right? I refer to myself that way.
Me too.
Really, right?
Listen, when I be working out, I'll be like, J-Lo.
But I'm just saying, because I am, right? I humble beginnings, right? Humble beginnings. Yes. Super, super proud of my Puerto Rican roots, right? I've got all of the spice and everything that comes with it, right? And then you've got to do that sort of cost-benefit analysis, right? Is it worth it? I know you hate it because I know what you're about to say, the system and all this stuff. But I'm trying to tell you, the system is there. It's real.
It is very real.
In addition to, by the way, human nature. Because all systems are built with people. And all the things that are wrong and messed up about systems are because of the people in them that lead them and drive them. Right?
So I love having this conversation with you because I used to be in your world. I grew up in corporate, grew up in financial services. I had mentors tell me, Victoria, your suit is too damn tight. You need to loosen up. Don't wear heart earrings. They're not going to take you seriously.
Right.
Pin your hair back.
Yes.
Your hair is a distraction.
Yeah.
Don't wear it. And at the time, I was just excited to be on Wall Street. So I was like, okay, let me loosen this up a little bit. Let me play the game.
Right.
And it wasn't until I stepped out on my own that I truly was able to see from a macro view how me playing the game was actually doing a disservice to myself and also to anyone who was coming behind me. Because now we're continuing to oil the same machine and continuing to allow for this systemic oppression because now we're playing along. We're not putting a stick in the ground. We're not saying, no, we're going to move this way. We're not allowing ourselves to be brave and courageous enough to break outside of that norm. Now, some women are. I've seen that as well. Like, you'll see it. You'll see little spunks of pink here. Like, you'll see hoop earrings here. And I think little by little, in our own way, all of us are trying to figure out how we want to show up in the world. But when you speak to, like, women that are at these levels, remember everything they had to go through and how much they were preconditioned in order to reach that level, right? So now they are now mentoring people saying, hey, this is how I did it. So this is how you got to do it because I understand how, I understand what's happening over here, right?
So I think it's a choice, right? So I disagree with you, right? My view is that if we're in this game of corporate America or this game of career advancement, right? What is the end game? Right? Is the end game to be your whole self? Or is the end game to win? Right? Is the end game to grow your influence, your revenues, your access, your ability to drive change in the systems that you impact? Right? And so I don't think, and I would not recommend, right? Now, this is me, and I am one of those seasoned women, right, who had to go through everything she went through, right? But I would never recommend to anyone, right, to show up in a way that wouldn't be taken. So why would you do that? Like, why would you? What is the benefit? Do you think that doors are going to open for you? Or do you think that people are going to, when you're not around, be like, whoa, what was up with those heart earrings? I mean, who does that? Like, she's right. Yeah. And so that's more harmful because of human nature, mi amor. Human nature, and it's not even a system. We can call it a system. We can call it whatever. Yes, those things exist, but it's the human nature piece of it, which has not changed. I don't think since the formation of civilization, right? Human nature is what it is, and people think what they think, and they move as they move. Now, do we evolve? Sure we do, because both of us are sitting here on this program with our curly hair all the way out, right? And this is how I show up at all of my meetings and my events. There's a bit of rebel in me, right? There's a bit of rebel in me, and again,
now that you reached a certain level.
Exactly.
But when you were in the trenches,
when I was in the trenches,
was black, gray,
brown, hair in a bun,
no hoops,
or straightened, right? Straightened, and even then the straightened, because my hair was usually long. I would change it throughout. I did a lot of changing my look throughout my career, but it was It was usually straight in a bun, just locked down tight, right? So now I am at a place, and I'm again blessed to be where I am, that I am a proven entity, right? And my contributions are measurable, right, to where I am today. Right. And the value that my CEO, my board, the membership assigned to me are very real, right? But I'll tell you that even earlier in my career, when I would, try to do the kitten heels or, the sort of, natural manicures or there was a part of me that was like, it dies a little bit, right? It dies a little bit. But what is the risk benefit analysis, right? Is the risk of showing up this way, right? Showing up this way with all of now the curls, this is what I am, right? This is what I am. At some point I got tired. My hair started becoming damaged because of all the heat of straightening it. I just stopped with that. But I had to make a decision as to whether I wanted to be taken seriously or whether I wanted to be me in the workplace.
I hear you. And I think a lot of folks go back and forth with it, especially people of color, right? Because
100%.
we have all types of cultural influences. Our family telling us, put your head down, don't be seen. You don't want to be seen, just do your work. You want to be recognized for that. Don't be loud. Don't stand out.
That doesn't work.
Etc. It doesn't work, but we carry that into the workplace. And then on top of that, we also have now all of these politics at play. We also have now whatever the culture's been built in terms of what is professional and how you do need to look and speak in order to be taken seriously. But it's interesting because the same business case for how we want to do this risk analysis in human nature and how that hasn't shifted. I mean, you can say, then why are we pressing so hard on DEI initiatives? Because if it's human nature and it is going to be what it is, then
so I don't think those are the two. No, so I think those are two completely different things. I think the ability to be your full self and the ability and the importance of including people of all different backgrounds and walks of life and experience sets, that's two totally different things. 100%. 100%.
Is it because being inclusive is inclusive of people's differences? And people's
differences. So I'm going to argue. So I just talked about the gentleman that was 6'9" and, from the Midwest, and I'm 5'1" from Puerto Rico, right? Those differences are what the differences are, right? They're excluding me based on the fact that I'm 5'1" and from Puerto Rico is different than excluding me because I showed up completely inappropriately dressed for an occasion at work.
So
because those are different choices. That's a completely different thing.
Absolutely. When in Rome, do as Romans do. When you have to play the game, you have to play the game.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis?
Check out www.victoriajen.com/training
to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go.
There's an amazing book. There's an amazing book. And it's called, I think it's it's an older book, but it's a fantastic book called Empower Yourself, The Organizational Game Revealed by a gentleman named Harvey Coleman, right? And it breaks society into this pyramid, 7 levels, right? The Carnegies and the Rockefellers and probably now the Bezos and the, Musks at the top. And, and then, poverty, like poverty-stricken folks at the bottom. And it characterizes all of the ways that these people show up in life and at work and in, how they entertain and how they dress and like all of these different things, right? It's a book I recommend that everyone read because it allows you to, it gives you the insights that you may not have about the different levels and it gives you the choice. Okay?
Yes.
So do you want to be here? Okay, well then this is what's required.
Pero I will add to this and then we can move on because I know you and I, this will be a whole nother episode. I love it. But there are so many things that are happening now that would go against that narrative because now we're finding people that are able to achieve success by literally being who they are.
Yes.
And
100%.
I know this is outside of finance industry, right? And so you have to be mindful of like where you're choosing to play.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But I give the example of like Cardi B. Cardi B came on the scene completely herself.
Yes.
Completely.
In the world of like entertainment.
In a world of entertainment.
Social media.
Correct. But now she's got these same corporate financial institutions that are trying to get their own human capital to dress a certain way, to look a certain way, etc. But then will pay her hundreds of thousands of dollars to do an ad during the Super Bowl while she just was twerking, shaking her ass on Instagram. So it's just so interesting to me how
but that validates
the
my
politics.
earlier point. That validates my earlier point.
Okay.
Because what Cardi B did was grow her influence in her space, right, where she can do those things.
Correct.
Where it is acceptable for her to do those things. She built her brand, her influence, her exposure, and her access. And now she shows up, and now she's an asset. She's an asset that people are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for to do, or millions of dollars, right, to do a commercial, right?
Yeah.
So she grew herself in her space in the way that is acceptable in that space, and now she's playing in these other rooms. But if you notice, like oftentimes she shows up. I've seen Cardi B in boucle jackets, right? And I'm like, who is this? Who is this? Right? Because she built her power and influence first. Her brand.
I get that. I guess my main drive is like, what an oxymoron.
Yeah.
That you have these organizations who are trying to get you to soldier up, look a certain way, talk a certain way, be a certain way.
Yes.
But will literally go pay a celebrity or somebody with other types of influence who is completely outside of what your cultural values and norms are.
But again, that's capitalism, right? That's absolutely capitalism.
Totally.
I mean, that's
but
taking
we keep
advantage.
Playing the game. We keep playing the game.
But the game worked in her favor.
The game worked in her favor because she was able to build the influence and the credibility. So I guess the main takeaway from this is it's not necessarily about you having to feel like you need to show up as your unedited, most authentic, full self, right? It's about you
achieving your goals, doing what it takes, right? In the environment, because again, you just made a beautiful point. Different spaces have different rules, which is why the empower yourself thing is an important, for me, it was enlightening. And I had the opportunity to meet Harvey Coleman and tell him, you gave me such an invaluable map that allowed me to know when I could choose to step outside of the box, when I could choose to break the rules, right? And that understanding that, you got to understand the rules first, right?
And then make the choice whether or not you want to play.
And then make the choice whether you want to play.
Right. Or you make your own rules.
Or you become an entrepreneur and you make your own rules. 100%, right? But if you're playing on someone else, in someone else's court with their ball, right, and their basket and their, whatever, then you got to play with those rules. But no, you get to 100%. You get to then leave, but you did the same thing, right? You built your career, you built some relationships, you got some learnings and experience under your belt that enabled you to now have a company that has lasted 6 years, right? And growing, right? But there's a journey there. And in this day and age, things are so different, right? I mean, I'm a dinosaur in this place, right? In social media has completely rewritten
You are not a
rules.
dinosaur, love. You are a dove.
A dove. Thank you. I'll take it. But the social media has rewritten the rules, right? And you see people absolutely becoming YouTube millionaires, right? And TikTok millionaires and all of that by being fully their authentic selves, by going straight to the people, right? And connecting with them in really visceral levels, right? And doing all of that, right? But that's not my space. Right. So remember I said, these were all feedback and insight and perspective and, according to Carmencita. And so my path has been a more conservative one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into our last segment, which is our Talk That Talk segment. And this is where we tackle something taboo in the culture or something that's going on in current events that we feel a way about. And so we discussed talking about let's go back to hubby vibes, because I think this is like really important, and I love to celebrate Latino love and just love in general, which is why I wore the hearts in corporate.
Yeah.
Hello. Oh my God. I still remember that day. There were these Tiffany heart earrings, and I remember my boss at the time. She was a Black woman, tall, bald, and she was like, V, you can't wear these earrings. The men are not going to respect you.
Right.
First of all, they were these little tiny earrings.
You opened it, it's a crack in the door.
But it was like those little moments that happen to you in your career that at the moment, you don't understand how powerful it is. But as you grow the wisdom and you go through the experience, you realize how significant that was. That was a turning point for me. Like, I realized, like, perhaps this is not where I want to be. Right. If I can't wear my little innocent heart earrings that represent truly who I am as a human being, right? Which is love. That's what I lead with. Anywho, so we spoke about how our moms, our abuelas, our tias would tell us, mira, mija, whoever you fall in love with, just always remember that they love you more than you love them, right? I remember that discreetly. I still get that advice. So what do you think about that?
So that hasn't been my experience, right? And again, you know, you never know why the things that happen to you, right? I met my husband in college, and back then, so we've been together total 30 years. Okay, so 26 married, 30 years total. And no one would have ever imagined that we would have lasted. You would not have looked at, you know, my husband or me and said, oh yeah, this couple right here, oh, this is the one. That's the solid. They're going to last. They're going to be, you know, they're going to still be madly in love 26 years later, right? Never would have. And as I look back on the choices that we've made, on the way that we've treated each other, when I look at the sacrifices that we've had to make for this thing that we've built, what is very clear to me, right, is that I love him just a little bit more than I love myself.
Ooh.
But he loves me just a little bit more than he loves himself. And so in that connection, we're whole, because we're both willing to be vulnerable, to make the sacrifices, and to put the other person first in the way that has allowed us, this is very specific to us, right, has allowed us to build something enduring. Yeah, tough, I know. It's heretical.
So would you give that advice to your daughter?
Oh, she's done it.
Would you give the advice of, be safe, mijita, get somebody who loves you more than you love them?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, listen, I'm a 100% person. I'm either all in or I'm all out.
Same.
Right? And so it's a risk, right? It's scary. But as I look back, I mean, clearly, you know, we can talk all the talk, you know, we can say all of the, you know, and make sure that, you know, he loves you just a, but the thing is, what do you want? Do you just want safety and stability? And some people do, and that's fine, right? Then that's cool. That's cool. But do you want like a love where like, you know, that person is your ride or die? That person has your back come hell or high water? That even if you were to split, that person would still have your back? That's what I want. Right? That's what I want. And so I've been willing to make those sacrifices, right? But again, I'm blessed because he's doing the same, right? And I don't know how you find that person. I still say, I don't know what in the world I did right for my husband to be my husband, right? Because it's the most important decision anyone makes is your partner in life, right? And we've been blessed to be each other's biggest cheerleader, worst critic, but we are 1,000% unequivocally each other's ride or die.
I love it. Find your ride or dies, y'all.
Find your ride or dies.
Carmen, thank you so much for being on Banking a Cultura and lending your thought leadership and your wisdom and your energy, and for just being an amazing woman in my life now. I'm truly honored to have you in my life now.
And I'm so honored to have you in mine. This has been amazing. Thank you for building this platform that highlights the complexities of Latino culture and all of the beautiful twists and turns that we represent. Thank you.
Te amo, mi amor.
Y yo a ti, mi amor.
That was awesome. Hola, mi gente. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to make sure and leave a review. This is super important because this is how we're measured on the different audio platforms. So if you want to hear more of Banking on Cultura, if you were vibing, if you had takeaways, if you just enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a review. I appreciate you so much. Until next time.